What is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Overreaction Buffalo post-game show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. It is so good to have all of you joining us right now with me alongside my two co-hosts, former Buffalo Bills Jerry Ostroski and John Fina. You can find Jerry on Twitter at Ostroski_Big O, and you can find John on Twitter at John Fina. Do us a favor, please please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this vidcast live right now on. Please do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notify me, all that stuff. And if you're listening to this in post as a podcast on Victory Tuesday, or maybe Victory Monday, John, if you're in the West like you are, but Victory Tuesday, Victory Wednesday, Victory Thursday, please do us a favor as well. Please please subscribe. The Buffalo Bills at 3-2, desperate for a win, head into New Jersey to face Aaron Rodgers and the equally desperate Jets. And dare I say, the very much wanting to be in the spotlight, desperate referees on a beautiful October night in prime time. And gentlemen, I don't have anxiety issues, but I might after this game. I'm wearing my Victory Monday t-shirt, however, from Homage, which I don't know if you guys, if you go to the Bills store, they got good clothes. And then if you buy from, but they're a little pricey, but if you go to like other like sports places, as far as that goes, nothing feels quite as nice as an Homage t-shirt. So yeah, so we are now sponsored by Homage. I'm wearing my Victory Monday t-shirt. All that just to ask you guys, how are you feeling?
Well, I just feel like I went through the
I almost choked on my water.
I feel like I went through the watch cycle twice. Pretty wild game. Obviously, just there's a lot to talk about. I mean, but I think John will tell you, and John and I have been through it. You know, the old saying, a win is cash money, is in full effect in this deal. And to win on the road on Monday night in New York, or I'm sorry, in the Meadowlands in New Jersey, it's a huge win. Now, obviously, there are some topics to get into, and there's one major topic I want to get into. And amazingly enough, it's not the referees. They'll be talked about enough, but there are some things we want to discuss. But hey, we won. We're 4-2. I think after the victory, ESPN analytics said we now have an 83% chance of winning the division.
Yeah,
that is what's important right now.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, from my perspective, I'm the lucky one, because for 3/4 of the game, I'm coaching JV and I'm following on the app. And I'm feeling like Jerry and Joe. I'm getting frustrated. I'm reading and interpreting what is happening, and I'm starting to lose it. The loser on this game isn't the Jets. It's the JV offensive line at South Point Catholic High School, because every time something went haywire, I was taking it out on these guys. Maybe I was amped up a little too much. But Jerry, 7 weeks into the season, 16 weeks in, including camp, and you're still running the wrong technique. Coach Fina was losing it a little bit. So I apologize to my JV offensive line, but you took the slings and arrows of a frustrated guy following a game on an app. How pathetic am I?
There was a lot about this football game that was that left some things to be desired, but there was a lot of great in this football game too. And this is one of those games where you walk away with the win. Your team does everything it can possibly do to lose the football game. So you've got a lot to correct. And I think it was funny just between the Discord channel and the chat, and then the little bit that I was on Twitter, just seeing people specifically with the just for God's sake, knock it down ball. You knew it was coming. Jerry, John, tell me, you could feel it in the air that he was chucking that ball to the end zone, and this is what was you just could feel it. And it's like, just knock it down. But to see the Mafia literally in chorus, I know what's going to happen after the game, that we got to learn from it. Like all of them, it was like a big swarm of everybody saying the same thing. Yep, I know what's coming. We made some mistakes. We've got to learn from it. And it's like, how many times do we have to learn this lesson? And I think that's the question I have too. At what point in time do you start learning the lesson? Jerry, I think you were talking about it, from a coaching standpoint. How many times do you get to say we got some things to learn when it's similar things that you're having a problem with?
Well, first and foremost, rushing two people to me is crazy. especially when you have a quarterback that's 40 years old, has been up in the first half, is obviously hurting and not moving real well.
Right.
We watched too, okay? So that's the first thing that I have an issue with, just the theory in general.
Right.
But the second thing is, and this kind of goes along with this Hail Mary at the end of the first half, it goes back to 13 seconds. We hear a message weekly about complimentary football, not making mistakes, doing the right things and being assignment driven. All these different things about discipline, discipline, discipline. And yet lack of discipline constantly bites us in the ass. That to me was ridiculous. And obviously the players are doing what they're coached to do as far as, they can't change having two guys rushing. That's what was put out there. But the fact that we get penalized the way we get penalized, and tonight, believe me, there was a lot of crazy calls in this game. And the referees were pathetic. But there were also a lot of pre-snap penalties and things that killed us that cannot happen. And at some point, when are we going to see on the field what is preached on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in press conferences? That's my biggest problem with this game. We're back in that situation again where we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah, super good.
I think that the concept of everybody eats, we're applying it to the wide receiver group because, arguably we don't have a wide receiver one, but it's really an 11-man concept. Everybody eats should really bring up, hey, everybody has to be perfect. And I agree with Jerry. Pre-snap penalties are the most frustrating things. And those are easy. Eliminate those penalties. It's just why are you doing that? It comes to mind, Joe. I want to flip back to the Hail Mary, and I'm just going to say this. I agree with Jerry. You rush 4. I don't even mind rushing 5 because the fact is that from that position on the field, the ball is going to the end zone. Right. We need pressure. We need them off a mark, not stepping into it and throwing it. We want something where it's hurried, throwing off your back foot, or throwing on the move where the ball doesn't hit that group of players that are in the end zone. But again, go up to make a defensive play. The only salve for this is they converted the play in a loss, right? So we got the win. I think if this game had come down with the Bills having an L at the end, and you look at that play at the end of the first half, there's a little bit more of a fire drill going on at one Bills drive.
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
And go ahead, Joe. I know you want to lead us into what you want to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask you both this question because you guys both talked about the pre-snap penalties and all that kind of stuff. There were 2 penalties in this game against the Buffalo Bills, and we have all watched football a long time. I've watched primarily the Bills a long time, but I've watched a lot of football. I don't remember the last time I saw it once, let alone twice on the same team where the tackle was uncovered, which is basically you're lined up to play. We're lined up for the snap, and somebody is either out of position, doesn't know the play call, but not even Josh sees it, and nobody on the sideline sees it. Like number 79 was uncovered on the play. That's a gross failure in every, how many places do you point in that situation? Like, what is happening?
Right, but there's almost like and this is another thing that's kind of weird. It's almost like there's a fragileness to this team where they do a really good job of absorbing, big time plays against them. We're the first half and really a lot of the second half. Guys, this is the blueprint for this offense to be good. Yeah. This is what they're going to be. This is the blueprint, and I don't think anybody can say enough about Ray Davis's performance tonight.
Oh, he played so good.
And I hate the fact that Cooks had to get hurt for him to get his opportunity, but I've been preaching this kid needs to play more all year long, and he showed why. I mean, he's explosive, great performance by him, but we give up the Hail Mary at the end of the first half. We're trying to play to not give up 3, and we end up giving up 7. Right, and it's like, bad things happen, and then we just we seem to spiral. We lose our concentration, and it's not just pre-snap penalties. and it's funny. It's funny. Daryl's wife Janine tweeted out tonight. It was funny. She says Daryl was like, "Man, I love this Deion Dawkins. He's got that dog in him, right?" And I agree. I love it too.
Right.
But the league is trying to neuter all dogs. If you haven't figured it out.
Oh yeah.
What Spencer Brown did to get the 15-yard penalty back when John and I played was an every other play occurrence. That's how you finish blocks. But now you can't do that, and we do it, and it costs us. We can't have chatter in a change of the field on the end of a quarter. That cost us. The pre-snap play. These are things we can't do, and it all stems from coming off that big play, and we get reeling again. And the nice thing about it was, the one thing about it, and I think it had to do with Ray Davis's consistency running the ball, Josh did not flake out tonight. He stayed with the plan.
He didn't want to. I'm gonna let you finish, but he didn't want to. I'm gonna come back to it, but go ahead.
I know he didn't want to, but at the end of the first half, he was like 13 of 15 for 109 yards. His quarterback rating was 145 with 2 touchdowns, right?
Yep.
I know he didn't want to, but he did. He stayed with the plan, and that is what kept us in it. That and the fact that their field goal kicker is worse than ours.
Yeah, there was one or two series in there in the second half, third quarter, where the Bills needed 4 yards or something like that, or 6 yards, and he's throwing the ball 35 yards downfield on second down and third down, and it's just like, don't do this. You don't have to.
Right.
We could stack so much and go back and forth. We probably need to bring, because there's so much energy to this game. We probably need to talk about some of that high level negative stuff, which we're talking about, and then come back to the good stuff, because Ray Davis was an amazing. So John, even for you watching that, the play-by-play on your phone, as far as just the text, when you watch this back, saying Ray Davis had a great first half doesn't give it enough. Like, that undersells it big time. The runs he had, the vision that he showed, the quickness, the cuts, he was impressive in the first half of this football game.
Right. And so what strikes me is I'm looking at the app and I'm seeing Alec Anderson reports, as ineligible, and I'm like, okay, we're going heavy. And that to me is great game planning. Joe Brady, the offensive plan says, if we go in with 6 offensive linemen, they're exposed to the run. And just the fact that they executed it, I clearly didn't see the plays, but 6 guys up front with a plan, you're running the ball down their throat. Now, what Joe Brady needs to do now is not go to Josh and say, be a game manager, but come to him and say, look at these instances where you're managing the game, where we're in third and medium, third and you can get it, and decide at that point, you just need to find 5 yards. You just need to find 4.5 or 6 yards. And that's where we need you. And then when we take a shot, take the shot, but know the difference. I'm not saying you're a game manager, but when it's appropriate, understand and make the play that's needed.
Right.
You put your hand up, Jerry. I didn't know if you had something.
No, I didn't. I was just kind of.
Oh, gotcha. Doing the beard rub that my wife calls me out on that. She's like,
I was calling for a bunt.
I like it. Getting back into some of the stuff that I would just call it, a little frustrating. That was a little anxiety driven. I didn't think the Bills were going to make their way out of that game. Between the penalties, the mistakes, Taylor Rapp, as much as Taylor Rapp, and Troy Aikman talked about, and I think Joe Buck did too, all the great plays he made. He's the one on that Hail Mary that had his hands extended trying to catch that football versus just swatting it down. And I know that Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are no longer on this football team, and they're the ones that had to learn that lesson against DeAndre Hopkins, and they did, right? Every time after that one time that they got beat on that Hail Mary play, they were swatting at the ball, like aggressively letting the world know we knocked it down. But Taylor Rapp played a great game, but the penalties, and I think for me, and I'm talking fast, I apologize just because the blood's still kind of pumping. I think for me, another thing that I'd like to address is games for you guys. There's always division rivals. The Bills and the Dolphins in your day, it's kind of back to that now. The Bills and the Dolphins are kind of like our biggest rival. Even though the Dolphins and the Jets would say that their biggest rivals are the Dolphins and the Jets. Like, it's kind of weird how that happens. But these two teams don't like each other at all. Like, you can even see it in the when the final when the clock hit zeros, it wasn't the usual everybody hugging, laughing, taking their helmet off, saying, high-fiving and, how's the wife, how's the kids, whatever. It was very kind of cold. Like Alan walked around. There was one dude that made a streak for him, which was weird. And then Alan went and found Aaron, and they embraced because they're friends. But how do you navigate that as a player, which is where I'm going with all this, and I apologize. How do you navigate those emotions on the field when it's like, I don't like Deion Dawkins, I don't like them. We hate them as a football team. How do you navigate that and keep that emotion inside so that this barrage of penalties, which we're going to get into in a second, doesn't happen?
John, you're much more diplomatic than me. You go ahead.
Look, I was not a guy that spent a lot of time after a game, hugging and kissing the opponent. That was not my deal. Win or lose, I just made my way to the locker room, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially in a loss, whether I played well or didn't play well. Frankly, I just had no desire to go out there and pretend like we just didn't get our asses handed to us.
Right.
It wasn't my deal. But to your overall point, the Dolphins and the Bills have been a rejuvenated rivalry because they both look like contenders. The Jets still haven't kind of been there with us recently, but this game is always a dumpster fire.
It is.
And there is so much emotion between these two teams. I wouldn't have spent my time at the 50-yard line looking for somebody's hand to shake. I would have grabbed Jerry and grabbed our skill guys and said, let's get to the locker room before we have batteries thrown at us by the other team, not even the fans. Let's get out of here.
I was trying to find a dip of Copenhagen, a Marlboro Light, or a cold beer by that point.
I'm talking more the in-game stuff. And John, you seem to be the more, as Jerry just said, diplomatic one.
But I will go ahead. I know what you're saying.
Like John's the guy that, like, in game, no matter how mad he gets, I'm gonna take it out on you in the next play. Jerry, you strike me as the guy that's like, I'm gonna rip your effing head off right now.
I was much more. You'll understand this. Fina will understand. I was much more like Walter on The Big Lebowski. Calmer than you did. No, I mean, there was no going out and hugging it out. I mean, there were some guys you respected or some guys you knew.
Right.
But no, when you're trying to beat the hell out of somebody for 60 minutes, the last thing you want to do is go, especially with half the crap you probably said to him while the game was going on. Now, John didn't say much. I ran my mouth too much. But
Chirpy.
no,
That's
I mean, it was like
you ran your mouth. And Jerry would run his mouth at a guy that was on the other side of the line.
Yes, I had Ruben. Ruben told me multiple times to shut the hell up. You're not the one that has to block him. Yeah. Usually it was Tim Bowens and the other monster from Baylor. I can't remember his name. Gardner, Daryl Gardner. Yeah, but anyway, it was it's just how it is, man. I mean, and you saw Deion after the game. Deion went straight to the locker room, right, and had somebody walking with him. It's part of it. They obviously I know the fans are still embracing this whole Miami thing, but right now, to me, at least for the team anyway, the divisional rival and the divisional hatred goes to New Jersey. I mean, it goes to the Jets, right. And it was a tough physical game. I mean, there was no pulling up on that game. I mean, that game was a tough physical game, and they got after it. And man, get on the plane and get yourself. I'm sure that they still have a way to find a cold beverage on the plane on their way home. Have a couple or 12 and enjoy yourselves because you're able to get out of there with a win. But no, there is no kumbaya moments at all.
And that's okay. And
that is okay.
If you're a guy that likes to do that stuff, if you're friends with somebody on the other team, and I think Joe and Jerry, you could back this up. I think because of social media and because you have so many ways to connect with guys and you've got more free agency and more trades, guys are a little bit more collegial than they were back in our day. I mean, you have to like pick up a phone and call somebody and leave a voicemail on their answering machine in their kitchen. So we weren't as intertwined, I guess, with our opponents as they are today. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the difference between, 100 years ago and today.
But props to Deion, man. Props to Deion. Deion talks his shit and he does it. I mean, there is no, he does what he does and then they're out there hugging it out with Williams and all that after the game. Like, hey, man, no, man, he does his deal and he goes. And that's refreshing to me. But unfortunately, this league that we love, and some of us are alums of, is trying to neuter that type of thing. And
Yeah,
it's
for
a
sure.
little bit
Here's
targeted.
the lesson of the game. This point in the season, unlike last week, unlike the loss to Baltimore, this was a slugfest with a variety of garbage laid over the top of it, smoke filled in the arena with cigars, and they came out on top. And you walk off that field with a little 12 rounds against Muhammad Ali, and that's really good for your character. That doesn't mean you played perfect, but it gives you that sense of, we can step into anything, stay competitive, and win it. If we had this attitude, if we applied some of these principles last week in Houston, we would have ran them out of the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Just to finish up on some of the good stuff, I felt like the Bills came out with a pretty great attitude and a sense of urgency. That first drive, Jerry, they imposed their will upon the Jets and that's a good Jets defense. They're the number one rush defense in the NFL. Again, I don't know what metric they're using. We've talked about that in the past, but metrics are metrics, statistics are statistics, and that's a good Jets defense against the run specifically. And the Bills did a great job just imposing their will. Again, we talked about Josh Allen just being, settled and doing the things that he needed to do. I can't think of. I'm trying to find some other things that really stood out as being. They hung in there, right? They had every reason. Yeah. They had every reason to tuck tail and be like, well, "That's it." But this was the penalty that broke our back, right? So,
right. Well, I think the things to look at, again, Ray Davis, and the fact that Joe Brady came out and gave him the ball immediately and said, "We're going to run this thing," and they imposed their will. They got the running game going early. One pass on that initial touchdown drive. I think that it was another good thing was, again, Josh Allen staying in the moment, staying within the offense, what they were wanting to do. They were able to get Curtis Samuel the ball some. He did make a mistake on that one route that he was a little bit shallow on the first down. They didn't get it. But I thought he had a pretty good game, did some things with him. We talked about tempo last week. Yeah. They came out in tempo right off the bat. I think that's important for this Bills team to mix that up. It was quite evident that Taron Johnson and Rapp, their appearance in the starting lineup was huge for this team. They're difference makers, and they made plays all night. I don't put that Hail Mary on Rapp. I put that Hail Mary on poor conceptual defense. That's just me. I think
bad call on the defense.
Hey, if you're a betting man, I'm going to take Lazard on a jump ball against Tyler Rapp at any time. I mean, it's called physics, right? But I think then also the pass rush. I mean, the pass rush did well. As much as Epinesa lacks physicality in the running game, he did show up tonight with 2 sacks. The roughing call was garbage, but they imposed their will in the rush and the pass rush. And then again, another dude that he's an amazing player. Bernard is all over the damn field, man.
Yes,
all over the damn field. And it's now letting Williams do what he needs to do, and it's rubbing off. And I mean, the defense is never going to be a go out there and hold them to 150 yards. That's not what they do.
No.
It's just like why they play their safeties 50 yards deep, and they keep everything in front of them, and you just hope that we can rally to the ball sometimes.
I saw the replay on the roughing the passer, and it looked like just a body weight call because he didn't take. And what an awful call that was. But the question
the referee said an unnecessary second move.
But if you see if you see him going down, the one hand he uses to try to hold himself up, he can't use the other arm because he's trying to get the ball out.
The Twitter reaction, John, don't forget what you're going to say. The Twitter reaction, Sam Munson from PFF used the F word. Like, what is happening? That was it was funny. The outbursts on Twitter from national dudes that aren't affiliated with the Bills that were like, that's a garbage call. But go ahead.
Garbage call. So, Jerry, I posed this question to you because I was following along on the app, and I saw a number of penalties on the Jets secondary, which has been really good against us for probably the last 6 games. Right. So am I right about that? Number one, we got some calls.
Yeah, we did get some calls, and a couple of them were impeding progress back to underthrown passes.
So my question to you is, does that bode well for our wide receiver core? Does that mean that they are reaching another level? Do you see that as a positive, that they were stressing what has historically been a pretty good secondary against us?
No, I do. I mean, I think the wide receivers, while they still lack that guy that's going to blow the top off of things, did play pretty well today. Keon had some mistakes, but Keon then showed up
Mhm.
in situations where when he was drafted, this is what we were told he's going to do, and he did it, right? I mean, he's still feeling his way. He's a rookie, but
Good
he
stuff.
started
Yep.
to emerge himself a little bit. I thought that Brady used Curtis Samuel well. He lined him up as a tailback a couple of times. He used him in those shorter passing stuff. Shakir caught 2 balls, I think, and both of them were big
Yep.
plays. They were
Big plays.
security blanket plays that Josh always goes to. And I said last
Mhm.
week that was probably the number one loss we had was him not in the lineup. But no, I mean they're finding ways to get production out of this group. And seriously, I mean, think about it. Mac Hollins caught a touchdown tonight, right?
Yeah, he also
Everybody
dropped
wanted him gone
he
last week.
he also dropped a couple pretty easy passes, but yes, he
I
did
don't
get
think it was a couple. I'll look at it on all 22, but
Well, he ran the wrong route near the goal line. He needed to
right.
flatten that
But it's
out.
just like Curtis Samuel in the corner of the end zone. He doesn't catch that ball. We want to say cut Curtis Samuel. How about we make a throw that's better than the throw we made?
the throw was bad for sure.
Right.
Let's do this. Let's if you guys have a pen and a piece of paper, let's transition over to some of the things that maybe weren't so great. We'll hit those real quick, and then we'll get into the stats for this football game. But before we do that, take a look at this video. Listen to this if you're listening via podcast, and if you get the opportunity and you can, March 3rd, join us.
The inaugural Buffalo Bills fan cruise. You don't want to miss this with the Overreaction Buffalo podcast live in the Royal Theater. Eric Moulds, Jerry Ostroski, John Fina, Overreaction Buffalo podcast on the world's newest, smoothest, grandest cruise ship, Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. March 3rd, 2025. 10 restaurants included, 13 bars, and we are including the deluxe drink package. Order any type of cocktail you'd like at any bar, and make sure to order the specialty Buffalo Bills cocktails.
All right, Eagles fans, we only have a certain amount of these rooms, so you better get to our website quickly. BuffaloBillsFanCruise.com. On Utopia of the Seas, you don't want to miss this. Meet and greet with the players, VIP events, Bills trivia. It's all right here for you. March 3rd, Utopia of the Seas. BuffaloBillsFanCruise.com.
BuffaloBillsFanCruise.com. Jerry Ostroski, John Fina, Eric Moulds, and now Don Beebe has joined the party. And my understanding is they're working on one more Buffalo Bills alum. So if you have the ability, if you're a cruiser, if you've never been on a cruise like me, my wife and I have never been on one, so we're really excited about this. But we would love for you to join us. BuffaloBillsFanCruise.com. Sailing out of Cape Canaveral, I believe, in Florida, and headed to the Bahamas or someplace warm in March, which is great. But gentlemen, things that I have a small list, but I've got a list. We already talked about the penalties a little bit, and
Okay.
I think the benefit of the penalties, and you can jump in and talk about and expound wherever you want. The thing about the penalties, they were calling it at least both ways. If this game could have gotten out of control in a hurry if they were biased, right, one way or the other. And I think that was the bizarre part too, is the amount of offsetting penalties there were. Clearly, Tyler Bass, if we can talk about Tyler Bass, the knock it down we already talked about. And for me, there was the one play call, and I put it in the Discord chat. I looked at the defensive alignment, and they moved everybody but I think one guy into the box, and we basically dropped the running back. Josh drops back, and he throws a screen pass like 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and the whole defense they were on him before he threw the ball. But go ahead, Jer.
Actually, if you're going to line up everybody inside the tackles in the tackle box, a screen to the alley is actually a good play. The problem is when they usually do that, you have to, as an offensive lineman, understand the concept of man and zone. And when you're going out to the screen to block, and the guy that you're responsible for is going to, that means he has man because he's probably running that running back. So you've got to take abort your mission as far as getting width before you go up and go straight to your guy and block him. So yes, it was a blown up play, but if you recognize that, you can get big plays on it because you got everybody pinned inside and you got leverage.
Yeah, it always felt to me, at least from what I've gleaned from watching TV or watching football games, is like when you catch them rushing, right? That's when you leak, or that's when you do the screen thing, because like all the energy's towards the quarterback and he just flips it past you or around you. It just felt like there wasn't a blitz there. They just had everybody in the box, and at the snap, everybody got beat. But I defer to you, Jerry. But anyways, those are some of the things that I had as far as that goes. Jerry, John, I don't know what your list was as far as
my list real quick was penalties, like you said. Situational awareness. Sometimes we really have a hard time of understanding situations, like the Hail Mary and some other things. I thought Bass was glaring tonight, but also special teams in general, I think, have been a little bit of an issue. We gave up a couple returns on the kick. We need to do better there. And then the other thing we don't do is, to counter your point, Joe, of trying to run a screen into all these people, we don't defend screens very well.
Awful.
And I think it's kind of a couple-headed monster. It's how we play up front with our D-line. It's hard to run screens if you got offensive linemen tied up that can't get out clean, right? We play so much of a penetrating angular defense that the offensive linemen are able to get out in the screen without any impedance and also get up on those second-level guys like the linebackers. Then the second fold of that is we do play our safeties at depth. If you run a corner off and you get guys up on our linebackers quickly, now you have a guy from 30 yards away trying to rally downhill to the screen, and it's hard to get to it. So I wish we defended screens a little better. This is 3 weeks in a row now where we've been hit for some big screens in the game. I'd like to see us clean that up as well. But those are my things that I kind of saw.
John, before you go, I don't know if you remember, we were interviewing Steve Tasker a couple years ago on the Off Tackle with John Fina show, and we had the same problem. And I literally said, I don't understand, with a team that has such trouble defending screens, the Buffalo Bills, why? And when I said why, he literally said, why can't we effectively run one? Like, if we've watched ourselves get beat so many times, how are we not experts at running them? So yeah, it's years later, struggle with the same thing.
I'm less concerned about our screen game than I am just getting our, bubble pass right. I think that's far more valuable if we can get those blocks together, run a bubble or a quick motion inside and run more of like an inside slant type of bubble, get the ball into a playmaker's hands. Screens are tough. Some teams, we always used to watch Green Bay. They executed them really well. We use that as film. But by and large, the athleticism of defenses now, I just rather not try to bunch people up and have a delayed play. And if we're not good on it, why don't we focus on something that we can do a little bit better on the edges? I think Sam Martin is punting the ball pretty good from what I can tell. So there's an upside in the kicking game.
Yeah, Dick Duran. Well, we punted it well.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys were paying attention in the drought years, but we had an awful game. I think it was against the Colts, and they asked Dick Duran like what went well, and he's like, "Well, we punted it well."
Well, look, it mattered. It mattered tonight. I think he knocked off a couple of really good ones. I was a little bit kind of scratching my head after we scored the field goal, and they had the penalty. Why didn't we try just a nice bloop kick and cover it? I think that distance, directionally to about the 8 to 5 yard line, or maybe just the 10 into the corner, because you have better control. That would have been my play. The 35, Aaron Rodgers, and the way the officials were calling the game, I was like, that feels like disaster to me.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious about that.
There were two baffling moves. There was that one, and then when we missed the field goal, for whatever reason, they called him not to kick it out of the end zone, whether Bass miskicked it or they called it like to kick it short to let them have a return, and they had a decent return. So there's a lot of, we've been talking about special teams and coaching on special teams and execution on special teams.
We're not saying special teams anymore, Joe, because they're either especially great or especially bad. And all I want them to do is just be consistent and boring. So we're calling it kicking game, kicking teams.
The kicking teams. Anything to add, Jerry, before I jump us into stats?
No, not at all. I think we've hit all those spots. I think we're good on that.
Very good. So looking at the stats, Josh Allen in this game was 19 to 25, back up into the 70s for a completion percentage, 76%, which it was widely reported that he had a historically bad game last year. Like it was the worst quarterback performance in 30 years based on completion percentage, 9 of 30. And then people were questioning me on that. Like, oh, did you make that up? It wasn't that bad. And I was like, I didn't make this up. Like it was bad. But this game, he was back into it, found his rhythm again, which was great. He had 215 yards. I don't think he's cracked 300 this year, if I'm not mistaken, but he's also still without an interception, which is great. 2 touchdowns. He also had the rushing touchdown. Rushing, Ray Davis, 20 carries for 97 yards, 4.8. There were times in this game where he was they couldn't get a hold of him, and when they did, he was dragging players. It was great. Ty Johnson, first run of the game, looked like he was shot out of a cannon. That was surprising to me that they didn't keep allow him. So I don't know if you guys know the story. Ty Johnson was cut by the Jets.
Yes.
He was like, they asked him to go have a surgery to get it taken care of, and then they cut him when he did. So the fact that he's with the Bills, he's got a little, they say, angst, chip on his shoulder. He got the start, which was great, but he had the first run, and then they brought Ray in immediately. But I feel like from what you watched, Jerry, John, it felt like it was a lot of execution on the offensive line. They were doing their job up front today, right?
Yeah, and I think it was like John talked about last week and the week before that. It was getting movement and making big runs without gimmicky stuff. It was inside zone, and they were doubling guys, moving guys. I thought that both guards had a much better game tonight than they've had the last couple weeks. They played well, and it showed. I mean, they did a really good job of moving level 1 to get to level 2, as they say. And Davis was very productive.
They say that's something that I've never heard before. I like that. Move level 1 to get to level 2. That's great. Ty Johnson was 4 for 34, 8.5 yards per carry. Josh Allen was 9 of 18. There were times in this game I felt like the runs were there for Josh. You said it last week, Jerry, and he just, whether it's his hand or what, he just didn't want to take. And then there was a couple times he ran and was like, "Oh, there's a dude there," which was
and this run in the fourth quarter, he should have tucked it and ran earlier. I mean, it was wide open. He waited too long, and then Williams spun off on him. But it was there, and that should have been, in my opinion, his first look right up the gut.
Do we want to talk about his last run in the game to seal it for the final first down?
And everybody in America knew that he was going to run it, and they still didn't defend it.
But the emotion that he had,
and the defender, how bad is the defender feeling right now, taking that angle, and like he hasn't seen Josh Allen run a million times,
right.
And taking an angle on him like he's Aaron Rodgers running a 6.040 instead of Josh Allen running a 4.89.
The fact that the scout team quarterback ran that play a million times in practice, or they talked about it a million times in meeting, that he's going to do, and they sure as hell did it, and he did.
I was taken away by the emotion that Josh had at the end of that run, knowing that he had just sealed the game, because he has a very difficult time winning in that stadium. So I just thought that was interesting. Receiving, Ray Davis led the way. So we're back into kind of an everybody eats mentality, or I should say stat line for this game. Ray Davis, 3 catches for 55 yards. He obviously had the long one, which is funny to me because they showed the replay towards the end of the game, a different view angle of it than they had shown previously. And he's running, and they show the defender right behind him, and he's waving his arms like, "I'm open, I'm wide open." And I'm looking at him going, "You are not open." And Josh threw him the ball anyway, which was great. So he led him enough that he stayed in front of him. But Dalton Kincaid, it was great to see Dalton Kincaid get really involved in this game. 6 receptions for 51 yards. Curtis Samuel, it was nice to see him get used differently. Jerry, John, I don't know if you guys want to touch on any of these. You can stop me as I'm going. He was at 3 for 44. Keon Coleman also had some great catches, 3 for 26. Khalil Shakir, to Jerry's point, had the 2 great catches that were timely and important. Dawson got in the game, 1 for 12. Matt Collins, 1 for 8 for the touchdown. Ty Johnson was 0 for 0. I don't even know why he's on the stat sheet, but your touchdown scores are Matt Collins and Dawson Knox, and then obviously Josh Allen had one with his legs. Anybody want to talk about any of that?
My take is Khalil Shakir eased back in, now just waiting to sit down at the table and eat. I think he, that test that injury out, feels good. Next week he blazes.
Yep.
Well,
I like
and
that.
I also think that Ray Davis's play allows the Bills to keep Cook on the bench a little bit if they have to make sure that toe is healed up and proper before they bring him back, because I thought him and Ty Johnson both produced really, really well. And if those two guys can run the ball like that every week, I think it makes, allows the Bills to let Cook kind of chill a little bit.
John
Hey, Jerry,
apparently wants to say something.
here's my tiny little brain going to work. Split backs, Ray Davis, James Cook, tight ends on the ball, one split receiver. Where are you going? Balanced front. You can go either way. You can motion, fake the handoff, and run a little bit of option out into space.
Yeah.
And then you got play action off of that. How fun would that be to see?
Well,
And
we could do
forget-
you can do a lot of stuff out of 22 in the Bills because, you got Kincaid. So really, if you wanted to, keep him on the field, move Knox over, put him on the hand on the end of the line, and bump Kincaid out into a slot. Now you got a three-man look on that, a side look over there.
Or you leave Knox or Kincaid on the sideline, you bring Alec Anderson in. Now you got power on one side. You're
Yes.
still in a balanced front. You still have two receivers, both of them that can catch the ball. So you're faking on one side, receiver or the running back leaks out the other way. The off tight end goes on a corner route. He leaks through to the flat. I mean,
Now we're talking Sal Point football right there. Now we're talking Sal Point JV, baby. The 22 personnel playbook is coming out from John Fina.
I wish they won't put it in. I
Rivera.
wish, man.
That's funny. Somebody was calling for John to take over the head coaching job, I think in Vegas, wasn't it, John? Somebody was saying that.
Yeah, that's a catastrophe.
Now you can sell software by day and get coached by night. I mean, it's just like now.
Oof.
Just move all the practices to 5:30
a.m.
That's hysterical. Team stats in this game: total yards for the Buffalo Bills 359. Surprisingly, the Jets came on 393, so they actually bested the Bills in total yards in this game by the end of it, which a lot of it was helped along by the Hail Mary pass, the 50-yard pass. Passing yards 210 for, as we said, for Josh Allen, 272 for the Jets. Rushing yards 149 for the Bills, 121 for the Jets. Yards per play 5.9 for the Bills, 6.7 for the Jets. First downs, Buffalo had 24. The Jets had 19. Third down efficiency, the Bills were great, very good in the first half. And through the game, they ended up not being as good in the second half. 5 for 11. The Jets were 4 for 12. Fourth down efficiency. Neither of them went for it on fourth down. Is that accurate? There was one play in particular that I complained about. It was 3rd and 1. And I was like, that's the moment you take the shot, because you're 3rd and 1 in their end of the field. Like, take the shot and then pile up and do the whole tush push thing after that. But the Bills chose not to. They got the first down, but I would have taken a shot there. That's just me. Sacks, the Bills with 2. The Jets had 3. Punts, 3 and 2. What do we got? Penalties. This is a fun stat, right? 11 the Bills had for 94 yards. The Jets had 11 for 110. 204 yards in penalties in this game. That's insane. No fumbles, 1 interception by Aaron Rodgers, and then time, which was an amazing. I didn't think he caught it. Like I sat there on the couch just ready to be mad. That's where I was because if you think about that sequence of the Jets' final possession, the penalty and just the stuff that was going on, and then they advanced the ball, and I was just ready to be angry that the Bills were going to find a way to let the wheels completely come off. John, you were going to say something?
No, just that third sack that was tallied against us. That was Josh running, free up the middle, trying to make something happen, and Quinnen Williams rolling off. When you're an offensive line, you see a sack like that, and you're like, it's just a running play, right?
There was another one earlier.
They call it a sack, but it's
yeah. There was another one earlier where Josh basically ran up the middle and got tackled a half a yard behind the line of scrimmage. And
so before you crucify but before people crucify the offensive line, 3 sacks, it might have been 1. Really.
Right. Time of possession 29-43 and then 30-17. So I don't know if we're going to get Jerry back or not.
Well, that's because he saw some of the comments out there and he got a little hurt. and he just bailed on us. So you people behave over there in the comments section.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I haven't been
I'm
paying
kidding.
attention. Oh, okay. So like, is there something going on in the comments section? I was like, that'd be amazing. So we generally wrap this show up with our personal MVP or our Dude Award, as we like to call it. In a win, we do a Dude Award. In the good way, like, dude, great game. In losses, we do a dude. Maybe we do both for this episode. Maybe we do a thumbs up Dude Award and a thumbs down Dude Award, as Jerry's trying to get back in. There you go, Jerry. John, do you want to go? Why don't we go thumbs up Dude Award first, and then we'll do thumbs down Dude Award. So we'll go around the horn. John, you can go first.
Now, I'm going to just go thumbs up. Offensive line putting it together for Ray Davis to be a dude. So it's a double dude scenario.
I like it. Jerry?
I will go with a pair, if you don't mind. I will go with Tyler Rapp and Johnson coming back. It was obvious those two were a big influence on that defense and made themselves known. I know Johnson started off slow. He was a bit rusty, but he made a huge play at the end, and Rapp's presence was there all night. So I go with those
Love
two
it.
guys.
Great call, Jerry.
And for me, my thumbs up Dude Award is going to be Ray Davis. He just had an outstanding football game. I've said it a couple times. I was overwhelmingly impressed with just the way that he ran the football in this game. Some of the cuts, some of the things that he saw. There was a couple times that he was just a shoestring away from breaking runs. It was, it's going to be interesting to see what the Buffalo Bills do for him or with him when Cook is healthy potentially next week. And how they're going to rotate them, right? Because how long can you keep Ray Davis on the bench for James Cook? And obviously you don't want a guy to lose his job due to an injury, right? That's not something that they do in football. So, but they're two very different players.
Oh,
well,
no, they do it all the time, Joe.
That's funny.
That's an unwritten rule amongst players, not the admin.
Gotcha. All right, so let's talk about our Dude Award. Like, bro, you got to be better. Jerry, you get to go first on this one.
My Dude Award?
Down,
the
dude.
Entire referee crew. The entire crew has to be better.
How would you have called that game? Because they were calling penalties. There was only a couple where it was like, meh.
When Joe Buck says, well, first of all, Aaron Rodgers said the roughing on him was not roughing. The roughing on
Correct.
Josh Allen was not roughing, and he said the penalty was called off on a phantom holding call. He said, so even the players know that it was a joke. Joe Buck makes the comment that the referee's going to need a SAG card because he was on camera awesome. So much, which was outstanding.
Was great.
and that was the nice thing about this. Even the guys calling the game are like, this is ridiculous. Until they come up with this rule, and this is something I think they should do. They want to find players, find your officials too. When they're that bad, don't let them call a game next week and take a game check, and then we'll see what happens. But it was the rule interpretation tonight by the referee crew was horrible. That's my Dude Award.
And I'll say this, Jerry. The SAG, for the people in the comments, the SAG card is the Studio Actors Guild. So if you're a stage actor or Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
So in order to be paid as a movie star with a speaking part, you need a SAG card. And I thought that was a brilliant comment. My Dude What's Up Award goes to anybody that had a penalty of emotion or a pre-snap alignment penalty. Because we go to the Jets every year and it's a dumpster fire, and that kind of crap just does not help. So, dude, clean up the alignment. Dude, hold up your emotion. Go hit a punching bag tomorrow at the facility.
Yeah, when he said that, made the comment about the SAG award, McKenna looks at me and she goes, "What's a SAG card?"
Yeah.
I was like, Screen Actors Guild. She was like, "What's that?" So then I had to explain it for a minute. My Dude Award, like, bro, like, we got to talk, is literally going to go to our head coach, Sean McDermott, for the last play of the first half. Like, he came off the field and said we were defending the sideline. So he's defending the field goal, rushing to, and to me, he's got to be better. He's got to figure out a way, whether they hire somebody to help in situational plays like that, high pressure, because it's over and over and over again, whether it's 13 seconds, Hail Mary, 12 men on the field last year against Denver, like over and over and over again, we have these amazingly like, wow, they just did that, or they let that happen. That's how we lost the football game. I can't speak to it. I'm not a head coach, right? You guys played the game. I'm sure that there's been exasperation from the players when you played, where it's like, wow, we really just did that happen. For me, he's got to be better in that moment, rushing to, right, playing the sidelines. I don't remember who it was. Somebody posted it and like I think it was in the Discord channel, like Terrell Bernard, somebody else was just in the middle of the football field in no man's land doing nothing, just kind of standing there picking their noses where they were at. They couldn't do anything. I guess they were there in case somebody threw it over, in case he threw it over the middle. But yeah, that's all I got.
I can't disagree. I think the problem really was rushing too. But let's not kick that dead horse anymore, Joe. You're going to make me want to go kick the cat. And I don't even have a cat. I'm going to go across the street and kick the neighbor's cat. No, I'm not going to kick a cat. But you're wrong that Josh Allen getting thrown to the ground was definitely roughing. That was a poor play, and it was finally a good call.
Talk about the whip when he whipped him.
Yep.
Yeah, gotcha.
But what I will say is this, and through all the bad stuff that we saw tonight and all the great things we saw tonight, I will once again hold true to the fact that it is really, really hard to win in this league.
Oh, yeah.
Especially on the road, especially in a primetime game, and they found a way to win, and they're 4-2, and they're in the driver's seat of the division, and that feels awful good right now.
Woohoo! 4-2, baby, hosting the Tennessee Tuxedos.
Yep, 4-2. Josh Allen still has not thrown an interception. He has also never lost 3 games in a row, which is a great stat for him. What do we got? We got the aftermath tomorrow, probably around 12 o'clock. On the beat is going to be Matt Perino joining us tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. live. Wednesday, Hump Day Hotline with Jerry Ostroski and Jay Spence the King, as I'm going to be traveling to Toronto. We're trying to figure out where we're going to fit in the Off Tackle with John Fina show, because John's traveling this week and so am I. And then Thursday, the Big O show with Jerry Ostroski talking about that Titans game. And then hopefully we'll get some content from If the Walls Could Talk in Buffalo on Friday. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the Overreaction post-game show on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe. It was an entertaining football game, and I guess we got the win. So when it comes down to it, I guess that's what we're really after. Let's be entertained and let's win football games. But for me, for John, for Jerry, for all of us here at Overreaction, we love you guys. We appreciate you. Please like, please subscribe, and go Bills.
Hey, thanks for staying up late with us in the comments, everybody. Share with a friend. We had a good time. We know you will too. And go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.
Go Bills.